All right. Okay. Welcome, Michael, to Next Step Espresso. It's great to have you here. Before we get started, I must inform the viewers and listeners that this episode is sponsored by Cherry Pepsi Max and Vita Coco coconut water, which is what Michael has decided.
Wait, who's keeping all the money? I've not been told anything about this.
Mate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's any opportunity I get to come and speak about health, fitness, criticizing the fitness industry, calling out any nonsense, I'm there.
That is exactly what we are here for. Can you just give us a brief introduction as to, who you are, what it is that you currently do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Michael Ulloa. I'm an online personal trainer and performance nutritionist. I run an online coaching business. My background was kind of occupational therapy. So I worked as an occupational therapist for a few years. So kind of taking quite a nice holistic approach to healthcare. Before transitioning into personal training, I wanted to do a job that I loved and that I was passionate about. I didn't think that was going to be personal training, if I'm honest. I thought this was just going to be a little stopgap whilst I figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And that was 8 years ago now. So I used to run an in-person personal training business, and then COVID kind of nudged my business even more online. And now I just work online with clients. I work with people all around the world, from everyday exercises to kind of the higher level performance performance athletes, should I say. And outside of that, I spend a lot of time creating really silly videos on the internet, trying to help educate people in any way that I can. I'm a podcaster, speaker, writer, all that kind of stuff, and I just feel like I've got the best job in the world. It's wild, and thanks so much for having me. I hope that was kind of a nice, short, snappy intro.
Perfect. It saves me from having to actually record my own intro. I feel like I can just go straight in.
Job done.
with this. Yeah, no. How did you, you say you started with occupational therapy. What was the decision then to move into personal training, apart from, thinking like, oh, I want to know sort of what to do with my life? What was missing? Did you feel that made you want to transition into that, helping people more with their fitness and nutrition?
I don't. So I've always been of the mindset of like, I really want to do a job that I absolutely love. And I just knew that what I was doing with occupational therapy wasn't that long term. I've still got a lot of friends that work in that field and they absolutely love it, but it just wasn't for me. And I've always been really into kind of strength training, big football fan. Like, I've always done sport. I used to do kickboxing for many years, and I always thought that I think I'd probably be quite good at that as well. I decided to do a personal training course. They're usually, as you know, pretty short, short and snappy. So I did that course before moving up to Edinburgh, where my girlfriend, now my wife, was living, and just thought, right, for a year whilst I live in Edinburgh, let's do something that sounds quite fun, something that tends to line up with my ethos. And yeah, that was just how I slowly got into it. It was just kind of fell into it, really. Amazingly, I just met some really amazing people that taught me about fitness, business, all that kind of stuff. And I just thought, right, let's just go for it, see what happens. And as I said, 8 years later, I'm absolutely loving it.
Great. Yeah, as you said, it's much more important to do something that you enjoy. And then, if you love the work you do, it's going to be easy for you to create content, help people, and do good work. What was your own journey into fitness? Because you mentioned about always being active, big football fan, did kickboxing, that kind of thing. What was your first step into the gym and the fitness industry in general? Because I'm so interested in your journey through to what feels like a very compassionate side of coaching, anti bullshit in the fitness industry, but also anti disordered eating and anti, shaming. And a lot of people have this idea of the fitness industry of being very regimented with their food, their eating, their exercise, and very like boot camp PT style. And you're very much the opposite of that. So I'm interested to kind of hear your journey into the coach you are now.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm getting a slight bit of feedback, I think, from my microphone, from your speakers through to your microphone, just as a heads up. So when I first entered into coaching, I was definitely not, I was nothing like I am now as a coach. Like, I started off quite gym bro, I think. Like, I loved reading Muscle and Fitness magazine, Men's Health. I was very much oh, you're not getting results because you're not working hard enough. I definitely sat in that camp. And I followed a lot of prominent people within the fitness industry without naming names, who I used to really look up to in the industry. You know, I thought, oh, these guys, I would love to mirror their careers. I really like their ethos. And then the longer you're actually in the industry and you see these practices, you see the nonsense that a lot of these coaches are promoting, or maybe just their behaviors don't quite align with mine. I realized that maybe the approach that I'm taking as a coach isn't as helpful as I thought it was. So I've always just been really overly analytical of everything that I do. Like, I love reading research papers. I'm always kind of reading to try and improve. And I also had some really brilliant clients that I was working with who were quite outspoken with some of the content that I was creating when I first started getting into content creation. And some of the posts of, as I said, that kind of, you're not working hard enough, you just need to work harder to get the results. They would be quite honest and say how this approach wasn't really helpful. Like, someone who's an everyday exerciser doesn't need that muscle and fitness, men's health approach to exercise and nutrition. And it's just been a really slow progression. Like, I still get things wrong. You know, I always want to be really inclusive and educational with my content and very evidence-based. And I know that sometimes it might not always hit the mark, but I always have people's best interests at heart. You know, I don't know if you were kind of similar. If you mentioned kind of you were quite kind of regimented, quite gym bro, perhaps when you first started. How did you feel that you transitioned to yours? Like, was yours like a moment that kind of switched, or was it this kind of evolutionary thing like mine?
I think it was very much more of a journey, like similar
Mm-hmm.
to as you said, because my journey was similar in that I was reading men's health magazines and looking at these, cover models and reading the articles that were like, bulging biceps in 30 seconds and washboard abs in 60 minutes or less, that kind of thing. And I then got into regular bodybuilding style workouts. I got into CrossFit quite soon after that. And through CrossFit found things like, like paleo dieting, low carb dieting, intermittent fasting, counting calories. And for me, it was very much a case of finding those regimented approaches to have discipline with my food intake, while then also being very much like, I must do this many sessions a week and I must hit this many steps a day. And especially as I learned about nutrition and learned about calories and macronutrients and non-exercise activity and metabolisms, it was very much a case, as you said, yeah, okay, if my clients aren't getting results, it's because they're lying about their food intake, or they're not doing enough steps. And let's focus on all these things. And habits became very much like rigid rules. And it was as I saw the wheels coming off in my own lifestyle for that, as I moved away from calorie tracking and was like, is this my life now? Do I have to always be this rigid with my food intake, or can there be a life after my fitness pal? That I started to find much more about self-compassion and lack of perfectionism, and also compassionate coaching, motivational interviewing style coaching, and almost behavioral therapy style coaching, like acceptance commitment therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and intertwining those in my coaching approach to be a much more, how do I help, as you mentioned, the regular fitness person or the regular gym goer who just wants to be healthy, rather than try and get everyone cover model shredded.
I can completely relate to that. And I also think a lot of it, maybe the change sparked from me just feeling really kind of unsatisfied with everything that I was doing in regards to fitness. Like, I appreciate that if you're doing strength training naturally, for example, like you have to be in it for the long haul. I know fitness magazines won't tell you that, but you have to be doing it for so many years to see like a decent bit of progress. And I just remember kind of reading all these articles and following these people that were prominent fitness industry figures and being like, oh, I'm striving away at this for years and I don't feel any happier for chasing this physique or this goal that supposedly was supposed to be bringing me happiness. And that was kind of quite a big part of my fitness journey. Like, I did used to be very aesthetic focused, like everything I did was around trying to get bigger, trying to look leaner, because this is what was going to make me happy and make me look like a good coach as well. And then you kind of yeah, you do just start to feel a little bit disenchanted with the fitness industry when that is your only goal, right? Like I
Mm.
still like to train now for aesthetics. Like I lift weights because I enjoy the challenge of trying to build muscle. I like the confidence that I have from filling out a t-shirt a little bit better. I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that. But now
Mm.
that's not the sole focus of everything that I do when it comes to my exercise and nutrition. Yes, it's part of it, but now actually I just want to feel better, like I just want to know that I'm improving my health in some form. My mental health, that is always a priority with everything that I do. If I feel like that's suffering, then I change things instantly.
Mm.
And I feel like that's not spoken enough about within the fitness industry, especially by men as well. Like
Yeah.
it's very rare within this space, or kind of the content that I'm creating regularly, that you see many men doing this. Women are so good. I know I'm generalizing a little bit here, but they're so much better than us at being quite open and honest about this stuff on social media. But I feel like with men, it's slightly lacking. Like you just got to search the hashtag of like body positivity, body autonomy, whatever it is. And there's very, very few guys creating this content that is so needed within the fitness industry.
We're going to double back on that
Mm.
because I agree. And I'd be interested to hear as to your thoughts why.
Mhm.
With yourself, I know for myself that looking at men's health magazines when I was 15, 16, and I talked about this today actually in an email and in my content on Facebook, about because I was the son of two parents who were quite bigger bodied and also yo-yo dieters who spoke negatively about their bodies and had bad relationships with food. I had a lot of internalized weight stigma,
Mhm.
despite not being that large, because I was a very active teenager. Actually, I was just built, you know.
Mhm.
But looking at men's health magazines, it was very much a case of, that's going to get me confident, getting leaner, getting more muscular. And I know how you said, like, yeah, okay, being more muscular is a cool thing, and I very much agree. But where was that switch for you of that's not making me happy, like that chasing this idealistic aesthetic, trying to have guns like Thor and abs like Batman, which is the
Mhm.
shit that, that's the shit we're sold, isn't it, as guys? Let's be honest. It's
Mhm.
the whole like Marvel superhero look.
Yeah.
How when did you realize that you were like, fuck, okay, happiness isn't actually at the end of this
Yeah.
magical rainbow?
Once again, I think it was just a slow progression of once again, these people that I idolized, I looked up to when I was this kind of young, impressionable coach. And then you slowly start to realize, like, oh, actually, I think this person's probably taking steroids. Like, I don't know why I hadn't clicked before. Like, they talk about kind of motivation and mindset and the perfect training program to achieve this physique. And then
Mm.
you're like, oh, actually, when you take that apart, these people are lying to you. Like, that's not everything they're doing. That's a part of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, people that achieve those
Mm.
physiques mostly still need to work really hard, but
Yeah, of
there's just
course.
no true authenticity behind that. So then when you start kind of really dismantling it, and I don't know, maybe it's just with slightly getting older and having more experience within the fitness industry, and the older you get, you tend to give less of a shit about what people think about you. Like now I truly don't care. Like some of the content I post on
Yeah.
social media now, I would not have done like 5-6 years ago, because I would have been so self-conscious about it.
Mm.
And I think it has just been a really slow progression, sadly, that I wish that there was more people doing what I'm doing now and talking about the issues within the fitness industry, because it just wasn't. Well, it might be being spoken about, but it definitely wasn't in the kind of major circles of people that were buying men's fitness. And I don't really ever remember there being like a decent article about like body dysmorphia or the mental health side of fitness. Like it just wasn't a thing, was it? There was just
No.
BCAA supplements sandwiched in between some steroid monkey that's just like absolutely jacked. Like it's just, that was normal. Like that's just what we were supposed to be chasing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Super supplement stacks for a jacked physique.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a shame that, because, as you mentioned, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people on social media and in these magazines who are completely natural.
Yeah.
And as you said, they work extremely hard. You've got to work extremely hard, even if you are enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that idea of genetics is something that we have to honor. And
Yeah.
two people can train and eat the exact same way, and they'll get entirely different results. And that's almost that nuance is lost
Mm-hmm.
in the fitness industry. And it's a shame as well that until you start learning about disordered eating practices and what like a regular eating relationship with food should look like, and having a lack of anxiety around food, particularly if you've not made it yourself and all the rest of it, that that's almost not perceived as normal. Whereas tracking all of your food and cooking all of your food in Tupperware and following meal plans and sacrificing sleep to get steps
Mm-hmm.
and sacrificing social events to hit the gym is seen as discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just when did that become the case?
Yeah, yeah, it's wild, isn't it? All these little practices that all of us as coaches had ingrained to us. Like, you go into a personal training course, like the first thing they teach you is like, right, this is what you do to help someone lose weight. Like, it's just all these little
Yeah,
things are set up within the fitness industry just for all these disordered eating practices and disordered exercising practices to just be really normalized and accepted. And yeah, I mean, I did my PT course now like 8 years ago or so, so I'm hoping it's maybe changed a little bit from when I did it. But I just feel like, yeah, I don't know why we still kind of accept these really bizarre things as just normal, like as you mentioned at the start of this episode of kind of just, do I just need to track my food forever now? Is this just like how you should be when you're trying to be healthy? Like, do I have to be going to the gym 5-6 days a week? Do I have to be sacrificing sleep or social occasions with friends or time with my family? Like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can actually make amazing progress by actually being really laid back and a little bit not rubbish with it, but just so much more chilled than perhaps people are being right now. Like I think
yeah,
we need to like
yeah.
celebrate and accept mediocrity. Like, I think that's something that genuinely needs to happen within the fitness industry. Like, you can make so much progress just being really average at exercise,
Yeah.
because if that gives you such good consistency long term, then you're onto a winner.
Yeah, I think that's that's an underspoken side of it, isn't it? Is the consistency over years and years and years. It's easy to look at people and think, okay, I want to look like that, or I want to be as strong as that person, and embrace an all or nothing approach for
Mm-hmm.
8 weeks or 90 days and all the rest of it. And then you realize actually that person's been weight training consistently 3 to 6 times a week for the last 12 years of their life.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, like that's a bit different, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I feel
It doesn't quite sell that, does it?
no, and that's
Mm.
that's one of my biggest bugbears as well, as being a personal trainer in the fitness industry, particularly who's one who is interested in marketing their services and helping
Mhm.
clients. Because at the end of the day, the only reason you improve marketing is to get more clients. And the only reason you get more clients is, okay, yes, to make more money because we've got to survive. And energy bills are now like £7 billion, but also to help more people. Like, we're all
Mhm.
in this because we want to help people and help as many as we can. And marketing, particularly now, creating the right offer is all about incredible outcome in a shorter space of time without doing
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the fitness industry, that comes out as lose 40 pounds of fat in 4
Mhm.
weeks without having to count calories, cut out bacon fat, or,
Mhm.
do hours of exercise. And it's like, you're just selling a lie.
Yeah, you really are, and you kind of have to play the long game, don't you, if you're doing it the right way as a coach. And I do fear for coaches, or feel bad for coaches in that instance, because I appreciate when you first start coaching, the money. I don't know how many people who listen to this are personal trainers, or maybe they're just slightly interested in fitness, but the money when you first start personal training is awful. Like, I don't think it's spoken about enough how little money you make as a personal trainer when you start. You're basically a glorified cleaner in a gym, and then you just kind of
Yeah.
take any money you can. So if you're then trying to be kind of super ethical and not buying into all these really toxic practices that do get you clients, it can be so tough. It
Hmm.
can be so tough. So that's definitely a barrier in itself. And yeah, I don't know where I started my journey in kind of like a big box gym. I won't name them, but it's just an awful place to work, like some of them I'm sure are absolutely fine, but it's so dog eat dog. And all these kind of toxic practices are kind of amplified amongst all the other coaches that work in there, and it can be really tough. And I don't know how we start making that shift in the fitness industry of changing that to make it a more kind of balanced and sensible place. But yeah, I hope it does soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those where sometimes I look at the fitness industry and I think, you know, bloody hell, I want to get off. I
Mhm.
want to get off, I want to get off the bus, but I don't, because I love the work that I do, and
Yeah.
I have great clients, and I'm also passionate about this message and feel that it
Mhm.
should be spoken about more. Um, but yeah, if you're listening to this and you're interested in the switch, don't do it for the money at first, that's for sure.
Yeah, like you can earn good money once you get into it, but
Yeah,
it does take
yeah.
a good few years. And as you said, like you have to be quite savvy or sensible with your marketing if you're doing it in a sensible way. Because yeah, you can sell 10-week plans or 12-week transformation programs. You'll get people signing up to them, but how ethical really is that, in the long term? And as you said, like it's not sexy selling. Oh yeah, if you keep doing this for a few years, you'll make great progress. Yeah.
Come work with me. We'll get you doing a few sessions a week. We'll get you eating pretty mediocrely, but you'll have a great mental health, and stick with me for a few years, and you'll make some gains.
Yeah, there we go. Let's package that, put it as an ad on Facebook, see how many people respond.
But no, you won't drop body weight in the next 8 weeks just in time for your birthday, wedding, bar mitzvah, or whatever it is that you're, or you might, but you won't sustain it. So
yeah.
Let's send a better message. Why do you think there are fewer men in the kind of compassionate coaching, body positivity space than there should be? Because I have my own thoughts, but I'm interested in yours.
I would say image towards other men, the image that you have in other men's eyes is a barrier, definitely. Like some of the comments I get from men on social media.
they are lols, yeah, I do.
And I don't share some of the really bad ones because I'm like, oh, I don't.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, oh, if I post this, I might get my story banned because of the language people use. Like I've been called so many things from other guys in the fitness industry, and 99 times out of 100. It's a guy. I always go on the page of the people that comment just to kind of like see kind of who the type of person is that's commenting, and it's always someone who takes lots of selfies, usually topless, usually more muscle mass than the average person, potentially steroid taking. It's this demographic, of like these guys who are told that, right, get loads of muscle, get lean, this will make you healthy and happy. And I think when someone comes along and challenges that, they take it quite personally. And I do think, just from the comments that I get from guys, like that's why a lot more men aren't creating this kind of content, because it's not seen as the manly thing to do, to talk about your mental health and your feelings, and not being really regimented and becoming a lion or whatever other nonsense they tell you that you're going to become from doing strength training. I think it's just they're scared to not look as masculine in the eyes of other men. And I think that puts guys off, unfortunately. And it's really sad to see.
Yeah, I'd agree. And do you feel that that's passed on through generations of the whole, men don't cry, men don't share their feelings, men have to be strong, men have to be providers, men have to be the, the support structure for the household, that kind of thing, like the leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. And it's I've now met some amazing guys through the content I create, and there are some brilliant content creators that are trying to break the norm. But I think it's still very generational, and the more guys we can have stepping up and speaking about this kind of stuff, the better. Because honestly, like what the fitness industry tells you you're supposed to be pursuing will not make you happy. Like, I don't know. I just want to like stand on the rooftops and scream this, to all these young guys going into the gym, absolutely smashing their bodies to bits, usually not getting the results that they're promised they're going to get, then turning to steroids because they think this is the only way I'm going to achieve this physique that makes me happy. It's just this really vicious circle that people do these horrible things to their bodies. And then, I mean, what do you get at the end of it other than kind of completely destroyed a destroyed body that's got so many health issues because you pumped it full of God knows what, without the correct medical support that you're supposed to get. Like you mentioned about kind of like the superhero generation, isn't it? I think people like Thor and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, all these guys that are just unhumanly massive, they are potentially, without being slanderous, potentially taking steroids. But all these action stars that take steroids, they will have a team of medics and healthcare professionals around them monitoring everything. When you and your mates are going to the gym and injecting in the toilets because it's the only way that you can do it, like it's just so bad. And I don't know why this has become so normalized. Or I really hope that there are more men over time that start speaking up about this and calling it out for the absolute nonsense that it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not coming out and saying that people are 100% taking performance enhancing drugs, but when you see people who are, as you said, unhumanly massive, and are able to achieve certain results in what seem like ridiculous timeframes. And also people who have Hollywood style budgets and teams around them, you do have to ask the question. And there was an interview actually between Tom Hardy and Jonathan Ross when they were talking about the Batman film and his role as Bane, and he got big for Bronson anyway. But
Yeah, he
then
did.
with Bane, Bane and Bronson were two completely different physiques. Like Bronson was like strong, sort of boxer style physique, and then Bane was just a giant
Big.
of a man. Yeah, just big. Yeah, like
Yeah.
bulky. And I remember Jonathan Ross asking him, like, what was the training like, and how he had to kind of work towards that. And he was like, well, Jonathan, there's the one way to achieve something, and then there's like the other darker way to achieve something. And they were like, right, okay, yeah, like we kind of know what that means without having to go deeper into it. But you're right, is that you have to ask yourself that question. And if you're then, I find it so fascinating that the fitness industry it's all about health. But there's two sides of it. There's like the guys where it's like, make sure that you're massive, but also shredded. And then with women, it's like, make sure you're toned, make sure you're fit and toned. And it then all circulates around weight loss. And it's like weight loss by any means necessary becomes the epitome of health. Whereas actually, like, these people could be drastically unhealthy with the means that they use and also their blood panels and everything else. Like, it's almost aesthetic by any means necessary. Like, when did that become health?
So true. There's been a few celebrities that have come out talking about it. One of them was Zac Efron from the Baywatch movie. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the interviews he's done, and he's been brilliant. And he says, like, I would not encourage anyone to go through what I did to get that physique for such a short period of time. Like, it was so obsessive, and he felt awful. Like, he did not feel good. Like, as a society, we look at him and we go, wow, he's amazing, he looked really healthy and must feel great. He didn't. Like, he felt really bad. Hugh Jackman as well, when he was Wolverine, I think he said that for one scene in the movie, it's like one of the final scenes, I've not watched it, sorry, where he's just like topless, completely ripped. I think he didn't eat food for like 2 days, and he was completely dehydrated, hadn't drunk water for like 24 hours or something. And finally, like, they're coming out and telling you, like, this is how disordered, unhealthy you have to be to achieve this look. Like, why is this the pinnacle of health when it comes to fitness magazines? Like, when you have someone who's in a larger body on a magazine cover, everyone goes mad. Like, society kicks off, social media calls them out, some of the stuff they get sent is bonkers. But then you have some guy who's clearly taking steroids on the front of a fitness magazine. No one says anything because he looks how we're apparently supposed to look. Like, it just feels completely off. And I think the sooner we can move away from this obsession that health comes down to the size of your body, the better we will all be. I'm not against anyone wanting to lose weight. Like, I think that's cool. If that's one of your goals, go for it. But that doesn't have to be the sole focus of your fitness journey for you to achieve health.
Yeah. Several points to touch base on, with the Zac Efron piece in particular. It was interesting when he was then bigger for another role in another movie, and to be fair, like, he still had pecs, he still had like visible ab definition, but it just wasn't six pack. And there was like a headline in the paper that was like, oh, look at Zac Efron embracing the dad bod. And it's like, are you
Jason Momoa got that as well, didn't he? Jason Momoa, they're like, dad bod. I'm like, I would kill for that guy's physique. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's mad,
who the fuck is editing these magazines and newspapers and saying that this is like okay? And as you said about like the stick people get when they put a bigger person on the cover of anything is insane. Like, Precision Nutrition is one of my favorite companies out there, particularly because I just love their educational platforms, and I've done their level 2, their kind of upgraded kind of master health coaching certification, and it was a very good one for teaching about compassionate coaching and behavior change and all the rest of it. And they put up a reel that they eventually took down, actually, because of the dumpster fire that the comments became. I don't know if you saw it before it got taken down, but it was
I didn't.
It was bigger people next to smaller people, all in gym gear, and the caption was nuanced. It said, "Not everyone in a bigger body is unhealthy, just like not everyone in a smaller body is healthy. Drop a heart if you agree." And it's like, the comments were ridiculous. And unfortunately, they were all from people who claim to help people with their health and fitness.
Yeah.
Who have probably always been lean, who are incredibly active in their jobs, who don't understand their privilege with that, and who are just screaming at people to move more and eat less.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of prominent personal trainers in the fitness industry. Once again, I won't call them out by name, but a lot of coaches look up to these guys who can be very fat shamey, very direct with their approach. And I just think it's completely the wrong way that you are supposed to be coaching people. Yeah, there is no nuance anymore, is there? It's really frustrating. And so I don't know if you can hear my dog is snoring in the background. Is that coming through the microphone?
It's fine. I've got I've got 3 dogs here actually who will all be snoring soon, so it's fine.
I'm gonna just like click my fingers and there we go. We've woken the dog out. She'll stop snoring.
Bless her.
It's the joys of a French bulldog. These coaches that people look up to, they kind of thrive on the controversy because first of all, it does very well on social media, so it boosts their presence and their following. And it just has such a damaging impact on people, and it does become cult-like. Once again, I don't want to say the name of the people. It's quite hard to talk about without it.
Name and shame.
No, well, it's just James Smith. You know, like he's one of the prominent guys in the fitness industry. You know, like I'm not a big fan of a lot of the content that he creates and the messaging that he puts out there. And I know that tends to go down very badly with a lot of personal trainers because for some reason, a lot of people look up to him. And I do just feel like that has such a negative impact on the fitness industry as a whole, because as you said, like all the other coaches jump into the comments and they kind of swarm together and it becomes very body shamey. And I just think it's incredibly toxic. We need some more kind of prominent fitness figures who are taking a really nice, compassionate approach, because nothing good ever comes from body shaming someone. Like, I don't know how much people need, like, what else can we do to tell people this? You know, like research continually proves if you criticize someone's body, nothing good comes from that ever.
No.
So it's incredibly frustrating, and we did name and shame. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's very unlikely that he will listen to this because he's big time, and you know, even people who probably love his content won't listen to this because my content is polar opposite. And James is an interesting one because him and I actually did the same intake of prominent nutrition certification, the owner of which has come under large amounts of scrutiny for sexual allegations, basically sexual harassment towards women, both students and employees. And interestingly, when I look back on said course, and I used to like James's content when he was first coming out because it was very much on a level of between you and I in terms of calling out the bullshit, but not people, but the diets themselves, and saying, you know, like, don't fucking do a juice cleanse and don't, you know, fucking do the aloe vera diet because it's not healthy. Like, and so that was like content I could get on board with. The fat shaming content that came out, you know, like fat doctor, this isn't health, all of that, very much a case of I felt it was controversy for the sake of controversy and for the sake of any publicity is good publicity type messaging. But when you look back at the course that we did, everything about that course was about here's how you help someone lose weight. And it was all about, okay, it wasn't stigma, it wasn't like shaming, but it was all, there was no data about metabolically healthy obesity. There was no data about, okay, well, there was a lot of data around don't take correlation to equal causation, but then everything around weight, which is correlatory data, was just accepted at face value. People who are larger have more risk of this, and this. And there wasn't that nuance of, but it is correlational. And if someone exercises well and eats well, then actually does that mitigate these effects? It was still very much, here's the association between an increased BMI and, you know, comorbidities. So if that's where his education stopped, which I feel it is, it's you know,
it's going to have a lead on, isn't it? And it's interesting what you said about the kind of the course director or whoever that was in your course who had all the claims against him, because that is annoyingly a very common theme within the fitness industry. A lot of prominent guys in the fitness industry have been called out for certain approaches, their ways of being at conferences or around other women, especially within the fitness industry. And it's, once again, it just kind of breeds this kind of like masculine, toxic aura around fitness, that big, muscly, womanizing men. This is what we're supposed to be, you know. This is manly. This is going to make you happy, and like it's just all wrapped up in itself, isn't it? Like the amount of people, as I said at the start of my fitness journey, that I looked up to within the fitness industry, most of them I would not follow them now because I do not agree with how they've behaved or certain things that they have done. And it's yeah, I don't know how you get rid of that. It does just feel like it's kind of rotten from the bottom up, the fitness industry, unfortunately. So we've got a hell of a long way to go.
We always need to tear it down and start again.
We really do.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that as well, because then you look again at this course leader, and you could see in retrospect now disordered eating habits, body dysmorphia, you know, content of like, I'm doing intermittent fasting and doing protein sparing modified fasts because I'm losing weight for my upcoming holiday. And you're like, you're already ridiculously lean. Someone who used to compete in bodybuilding and then would be like, I'm going to diet down for my holiday because I need to, and, you know, showcase effectively binge eating behaviors outside of those diets, and, you know, those yo-yos between everything. And it's like, so how is that the recommendation for how normal people live their life and have, you know, enjoy their food intake? It's not.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that as someone who also struggled with body dysmorphia, effectively bulimia, in terms of, I've never purged, but in terms of over exercising, in terms of earning food and that shame, you know, that's not healthy. And again, it's that whole, let's try to lose weight by any means necessary, because that's the healthy outcome versus a normal relationship with food and fitness.
Completely agree. And it's, I don't know, is it like like it's a very gym bro thing, isn't it? Of kind of like celebrating the struggle, even if it's not that beneficial. There's this kind of like, oh, I'm going to wear this as a badge of honor because I can stick with this thing that's really tough. So sometimes these practices do just get amplified because of that. Like fasted cardio, for example, was always seen as like, oh, it's going to help you burn body fat faster, and it doesn't. But there's still this belief of like, oh, I can get up in the morning and not eat and go and do a big cardio workout because I'm tough, you know. Like, it's just so bizarre how all these things do stick around despite the evidence consistently calling out the nonsense. So it's yeah, it's weird. I like the fitness industry is bizarre, isn't it? As you said, like I feel like we just need like a big reset button of just like, right, let's just start again. Take like a really nice, sensible approach with this, and because the foundations they just need to be really simple. Like the foundation of everything can be so straightforward. We've just got all these companies exploiting awful research papers or tiny parts of research paper and then marketing a product from it. Like it's so easy to be exploited. There just needs to be a way that we can tighten the reins a little bit.
100%, Michael. Yeah, because again, it's that, as you said, either using bad research or exploiting certain research to then sell a solution to a problem that not many people will have, or telling them that they have that problem, or because they're underconfident and they're not happy with themselves, saying this is the solution to your happiness, as we've both experienced ourselves, versus, you know, the layperson can't see through that. The layperson can't see that news article that's talking about some latest study that isn't a latest study, that eggs are bad for them. They can't see through that. They can't see why that's not the case, because they don't have the access to the research reviews and the data as we do. And it's a real shame, because all you get then are people like our former selves who probably cycle between different diets or different ways to try and control our food intake. And actually, research shows that the people who have that yo-yo approach with their food and body weight have lower feelings of body well-being, higher overall BMIs, and actual lower health outcomes. So it's like this constant cycle of, okay, I'm going to get back on it with my food intake and track my calories and go to the gym all the time, to then be off of it for another 12 weeks. It's actually worse for you than just, as you said, being mediocre all of the time.
Yeah, I'd look back at some of the things that I did when I first started coaching and just being really obsessive, like avoiding going out for dinner with family because I'm like, oh, I've had my macros today, like I can't do that. And all these things that I've turned down, I'm like, oh, I can't go to that. I've got to go for a workout in the morning. And I don't
Yeah.
know, as I said, it's this struggle, isn't it? There's the scene as like, right, this is what success has to look like. It has to be this big struggle. And if it's not, then you're not working hard enough or you're not doing the right things. And yeah, I mean, we need to come up with like a plan that we can sell that is literally just like, let's just call it mediocrity. Are you looking for mediocrity with your fitness? Come work out with Johnny and Michael. We got it nailed.
Operation mediocrity. I love it.
I'm in. Let's do it.
I'm in. Yeah, perfect. I mean, I think that's why, like, when I was checking you out, both physically and business wise, and I saw that you had a monthly offering. I was like, yeah, good, because the thing is that at the end of the day, people need to be bought into this for the long haul. Like I do one-to-one coaching, and again, it's because I want people to come in and they're like, I want to work on my relationship with food, and I want to work on my health, and I want to do so from a non obsessive standpoint. And I'm like, cool, let's go. We're going to do the deep work. It's going to be fun. We're not going to be sure how long it takes, but let's do the work, because that's where the work is. And when you said about mediocrity, it just reminded me that when I started fitness coaching, it was very much a case of like, right, this person needs this plan, right? These are going to be their calories and macros. We're going to adopt these habits. Here's like the prescription, as if I was like a GP. Here's your prescription, and I'll help you stick with it. Let's check in each week, see how you're getting on. And people just crumble, people just crumble to pieces. Whereas now it's very much a case of like, I'd speak to loads of people and they're doing so much better than they feel they are.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that lets people down is actually the consistent focus on trying to improve, trying to make progress every week, because that's just not how the body works. And when they don't make progress because they're trying to see progress physically every week, they sabotage themselves. Or because they're so rigid with their food intake, they sabotage themselves. Whereas if you said, what does a normal day look like when you're not trying to control their food intake? And they're like, oh, well, I might have, a few vegetables at lunch and dinner, and, maybe just a bowl of cereal for breakfast, and, maybe a chocolate bar here. But, then I don't get enough protein. I don't get enough veg. And you're like, no, but that sounds like a fucking perfectly balanced day.
Yeah.
Just do that all the time.
I love it. My favorite thing is when I start working with a new client and I send them a training program and nutrition plan and stuff, and they kind of message back and they're like, oh, is that it? Like, yeah, like honestly, like I want this to be so simple. And then they follow it for a few weeks and they're like, oh my God, I was so overcomplicating things. So the more we can just strip back to basics, the better. It's it's seeing someone's eyes like truly be open to how much nonsense there is in the fitness industry is just the best thing in the world. I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? Like, we just want to call out this nonsense. Like, I'm not in this to make my millions. It would be nice. But I truly just got so fed up of following these people that were just ripping me off. Like, people just taking my money, overcomplicating the process when it really doesn't have to be like that. Honestly, your nutrition can be so straightforward. so straightforward. And you can make amazing progress. Like, we're going to keep championing that. And Operation Mediocrity is going to be the way we do it.
Well, I was just about to say to you, mate, like that's the $1 million program right there. I can see it now.
The funny thing is, I actually think it would really work.
I'm writing it down. We'll have another call. We'll have a business call later on, and we'll release it alongside the podcast. No, that's not enough time to release the program. But no, Michael, I'm conscious of your time. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think, as you mentioned, particularly for blokes out there who might be struggling with body dysmorphia and body image and body dissatisfaction and that kind of thing, like getting the message out there and saying to them, we understand how you feel and here's a better way. Hopefully that will become more of the future.
Yeah, I truly think that it's going to happen. Like, it is happening. The fitness industry shift is happening now. It's just, I feel like with guys, it is just a little bit further behind than it should be. But we are making some good strides. Like, when I get messages from people saying that kind of their relationship with food has improved, or the relationship with their body has improved just from taking a bit of a step back and analyzing what they're being told, it really is the best feeling in the world. So thanks so much for having me on, man. Any opportunity, as I said, to kind of preach this stuff, I'm down for it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been great, mate. You know, I'll obviously link your Instagram to the comments, and you know, if you've got a blog or anything else that you want attached to that, let me know, and I'll just attach it all to the link rather than you telling people now, because
That's cool. My Instagram is where most of my content goes up, and everything is linked in my bio there. So
great.
that's good with me. Thank you.
I'll share it there. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Cheers, Johnny. See ya.
Thank you, dude.